the most advanced scientific research and control. Plants, facilities, and methods have changed with the passing years. But some things never change. Let's look about and see how the traditions of yesteryear are preserved and enriched in this, one of the largest and one of the most modern of plants in all the world, devoted to the fine art of brewing.
Ah, yes, Ham's Brewery. The gem of St. Paul urban exploration. I remember it like yesterday, having to squeeze myself through the clipped barbed wire fence and climbing on top of that rusty barrel so I could pull myself through the broken window. I mean, it's something you just can't forget. And that smell, oh God, you just can't forget the smell of Ham's Brewery. I mean, it just reeked of feces and dead birds. There were literally rooms filled with hundreds of dead pigeons. I mean, overall, I would say Ham's Brewery was just a really surreal experience. But besides the poopy smell and the dead birds, Ham's was a mecca for urban art and exploration in St. Paul. And if you were there during the early days before urban exploration was exploited by suburban weirdos, then you know what's up. Case in point, Ham's was the shit. I mean, seriously, I used to hang out there all the time. I mean, the place was so big. Me and my buddies would get lost in there and we would spend hours trying to find our way out. This was the place where all the local kids would come and hang out because there were no rules once you entered Ham's. There were no parents. This was the place where you would smoke your first cigarette or joint, the place where you had your first beer. This is the place where local Eastside kids would come and be bad because it was okay. If you weren't gangbanging, more than likely you were probably one of those St. Paul kids that was hanging out at Ham's Brewery at the time. I most definitely was one of those kids, and to be honest, I really don't regret it. I had a great time. Ham's Brewery was the kind of place where you would find something new each time you returned. It was a really fun place, but the only problem was that one side of the brewery was still in operation. And if you were to ever run into one of the people working on the other side, that was an indication that it was time to go. So yeah, if you weren't a Ham's kid at the time, you were probably into United Crushers, or you were one of those Lilydale Cave kids. I personally was never really into caves because I was always paranoid about some idiot starting a fire in the caves or something like that. But it's not a lie that there were a lot of dumb kids in the caves. I mean, that's why most of the St. Paul caves are sealed up today. And it was for that exact reason that I was just never really into caves. I was more of a Ham's or Ford plant kind of guy. These days, I really don't go out to do this kind of stuff anymore, but I do miss the old days when urban exploration was more low-key. Now, that's pretty much everything I can say about my experience with urban exploration in St. Paul. I'm not telling people to go out and do it. If anything, I don't think you should do it at all because it's really dangerous, but I just want to keep record of this particular era that I had experienced that doesn't really exist anymore these days because there's so many kids doing dumb stuff in these urban exploration spots and getting caught doing, I'm just saying, it's just not the same anymore, man. But that's pretty much it. Peace out, y'all.